Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 151 of TDI. This is Dr. O on the horn to start per usual. And we are now bringing you a very special review, one that made our most anticipated lists of, I believe, 2021 and 2022. A movie that's been pushed back, right? It's held for award season. It's had a very chaotic run so far, even when it's even before its debut at recent film festivals. Moving on to its release in theaters, we got chaos between Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde, Flo herself with Florence Pugh. Even Shia LaBeouf is getting in the mix. I can't wait to talk about this, Ricky Flicks. It's got a star-studded cast, right? We had high hopes for this movie. How pumped are you to talk about Don't Worry, Darling?
It doesn't matter how good or bad this movie was. The anticipation was there. I stand by. I know you picked it in the 2022 anticipated draft, but I picked it in the 2021. And I think, if anything, the anticipation levels only increased with the ratings or the critic reviews coming in, the offset issues, the festival issues, before the Shia LaBeouf randomness, this Jason Sudeikis papers being thrown at Olivia Wilde during an event. Just the anticipation grew. I do not take back any comments I made before seeing this movie.
This is an interesting one because it gave us so much movie news and content but prior to its release. And it seemed like this movie, it didn't matter how the movie actually was, there was going to be a negative reaction to it, centering around the triangle of Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde, and Florence Pugh. And I think this is a movie, I think we're just going to get into the review. I think we should hold the checkup for later because I'm too anxious to talk about it. I'm too eager. This is one where I wanted to put aside everything that has happened. I want to put aside the spit as well, okay? And the chaotic run this movie's had. I want to go against Rotten Tomatoes. I want to go against IMDb. I want to go against the consensus and be like someone that is not countering everything, but taking the movie for what it truly was. And even by just taking the movie for what it truly was, this movie sucked. This movie sucked, and it's really disappointing because we had such high hopes. It's hitting top 10 most anticipated list for you and I. The follow-up to Olivia Wilde's Booksmart, right? One of the most clever teenage comedies of the last 10 years, I'd say. Maybe the funniest in Superbad, in my very humble opinion. I know Ricky Flicks does not share that necessarily. It's a bold claim, but I had high hopes for this, and it completely fell flat. Olivia Wilde takes a swing, and to me, completely misses. So let's get into the synopsis. Let's get into the Rotten Tomatoes and the IMDb. And then I'm going to get your initial reactions for this film, Ricky Flex. So Rotten Tomatoes currently has Don't Worry, Darling at 38%. Audience score, 79%. No surprise there, featuring this star-studded cast. IMDb is currently holding it at a 6.3 out of 10. It gets a B- on CinemaScore. We're now incorporating that into our reviews. Seems like it's a big deal now. It seems like it's getting tweeted constantly. So CinemaScore incorporated into our reviews. Synopsis reads, in the 1950s, Alice and Jack Chambers live in the idealized community of Victory, an experimental company town that houses the men who work on a top secret project. While the husbands toil away, the wives get to enjoy the beauty, luxury, and debauchery of their seemingly perfect paradise. However, when cracks in her idyllic life begin to appear, exposing flashes of something sinister lurking below the surface, Alice can't help but question exactly what she's doing in Victory. All right, Ricky Flex, there's the synopsis. There are the critic reviews. What do you think of Don't Worry, Darling?
Don't Worry, Darling is my Billy Madison Award, where everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to you.
I agree.
This movie, and Chris Pine says, what are they afraid of? Chaos. This cult, what are they afraid of? Chaos. This movie was chaos.
It's so ironic.
It was annoying. It was disappointing, as in the hype around it for non-IP Hollywood, right? Ensemble cast, star-studded Hollywood cast, celebrities, big-time actors. Disappointing in that retrospect. And the twist didn't pay off, which is what you were banking on, because the movie as a whole just made you dumber for having watched it. And as you were leaving the theater, you left the theater with more questions than when the movie was trying to build up anticipation for this twist. And when you leave with more questions, not like an Inception where there's one question, did the dreidel stop spinning? You know, like that's the main question. There weren't really other questions. Like if you had other questions, they were solved. And I bring up an Inception because Olivia Wilde on her press tour kept saying how this was like her Inception level movie. She kept bringing up Inception as a comparison. So that's why I bring up Inception and how this movie just nowhere near it is disrespectful to bring Inception in the same realm in this movie. But I should say this movie was beautiful, stylistically stunning. Production design, costume design, Harry Styles, Florence Pugh, like stunning. But you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a book by its cover. The context of it was chaos, a mess. That's pretty much sums it up pretty well as a like looking at a macro view of this movie. That was Don't Worry, Darling. And I should just say one more thing. Yes, this movie was a mess, but I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed with the anticipation level of this movie, seeing this chaotic mess. I loved leaving the theater with you and our cousin. I love talking about this movie. That's what movie theater experiences are like, is talking about the movie afterwards. And just, we were talking about how dumb it was and how like all these different plot points just didn't make sense. But I love that. I love talking about the movie. It's better than just seeing like a Jungle Cruise and being like, oh, all right, that was pretty simple, but our plump boy did well. Like, no, this is more fun to talk about. So yeah, the movie wasn't very good. It was mess. I'll end this rant by saying, yeah, Billy Madison Award. Don't Worry, Darling.
So we were thinking about doing a Razzie type of top billing. I know we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I can see this movie being nominated for a few Razzies. I think it could be in the mix for this year's competition. It's kind of really disappointing. Well, actually, I'll address how you said we have a bunch of questions afterwards. It's fun to talk about. I find those questions, like our conversations afterwards, were just hilarious because we were just ripping on and making fun of this movie for pretty much the entire time of our conversations. And it's really sad because Olivia Wilde, she's following up Booksmart. She has a chance. She's taking the swing, right, at this sci-fi type of mind-bending adventure where, like, you don't know from the trailers what's exactly happening. I made the early comparison. It felt like a Jordan Peele type of trailer, right? And, like, we are looking for that next Jordan Peele, that young director who's going to take up the mantle of, like, what Nolan does and what Tarantino does, who craft these original stories and create something special for audiences. We had high expectations for this movie, but everything got hijacked by what was happening, right, off screen, all right, in the lead up to the movie. I do think we should talk about also our experience watching this because we did see it with our cousin, right? Shout out Palmer. And I was glad that he was open to going to this movie. Like, we're on the way, we're driving, right? He's not as much in, he loves movies. He doesn't like major IP. He doesn't follow the news like we do. I know we're like a movie podcast, so we have to be all over it. I know he listens every once in a while to the pod, but like, we're driving, he gets a phone call from his buddy, and it's on speakerphone, obviously. It's on Bluetooth. So all of a sudden, he answers the phone, and his buddy goes, hey, what are you doing right now? It's like middle of Saturday. It's beautiful, like 70-degree day. Beautiful fall day. Great day for college football. And he goes, hey, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm going to see a movie. And I was like saying in my head, please don't ask what movie it is. Please don't ask what movie it is. And he goes like, what movie are you seeing? And then he goes, Don't Worry, Darling. And then the guy responds by saying,
long pause.
That's the name of the movie? You're going to see that on a Saturday afternoon? Like, what is your life? And it just makes me think, like, we do live in a separate reality sometimes than other people, right? Like, you're so into movies. We're saying this is a huge release. I'm telling my friends we're going to see Don't Worry, Darling, and they're like saying, what is that? And the only thing they can recall about this movie is the spit between Harry Styles, allegedly, onto Chris Pine. And then also our cousin Palmer, he tells us right before we're going to see the movie, he notoriously, if he doesn't like a movie in the first 10 minutes, he'll dip out of there. He'll leave. And so we are nervous
and
that
this movie's first 10 minutes is so slow and boring.
The first 10 minutes, you're a little bit intrigued, but I'm like looking over at him, like, is he on his phone yet? Is he on his phone yet? And then I saw him on his phone. I'm like, crap, like we lost him. And then, like, if I was thinking, if we weren't there, he's out of there. Like, he is out of there in the first 10 minutes. But when the third act hit, I guess the second half of the movie hit, he was paying more attention. I think he was entranced a little bit with Florence Pugh, who wouldn't be. But it was fun to, like, shoot the shit with him afterwards and talk about how of how much of a disaster that whole movie was, and how like this twist was such a letdown and almost predictable in a way. Anything to add on your initial reactions before we get into it?
Yeah, no, I thought this movie was pretty slow and boring. Most of the first act, like first 30 minutes was bad. Like, not bad, just slow and boring. Way too much setup and background. Like, we don't need that much, especially when they're being so broad in their explanations. It's just a waste of time. And then I think throughout, it's like with the music and not slow-mo, but like the focus of the camera on Florence Pugh and the awes and from all these people in the movie, you're trying to build up this anticipation for this twist. And for me, it didn't work. Like for some people it did. I was reading like for some people it did. For me, it didn't work. And then when the twist comes, it's just like you roll your eyes. And I'm not spoiling this movie because I do think this movie was fun to see and like talk about. So I don't want to spoil it, even though I'm not going to give it a good score. Spoiler alert for that.
Yeah.
But in all, like, yeah, just did not pay off. But right now, looking back, I had a good time.
And the movie did outperform box office expectations this weekend at 21 million, right? So it's kind of interesting to decide if like the off-screen drama detracted from its potential box office or actually boosted it. I think it actually boosted it. And when the fact that you have Harry Styles in his first major role, the biggest rock star in the world right now, like it's going to do numbers. Even no matter how good or bad the reviews are, you're going to get the teenage girls that are there. And then we're watching, and Harry Styles pops on screen. He's doing the dancing, like there ain't no strings on me. And like Chris Pine is like telling him to dance. All of a sudden, we see a flash from these teenage girls are taking a picture of the screen just to tell their friends we're watching the Harry Styles movie. That's the kind of impact this movie has in the culture today. One question before we dive into this cast, because I got a fun segment for us to perform. But did the off-camera news play into your viewing experience at all? I know for me, like I was constantly like analyzing Harry Styles' performance, not because it was his first major role. He has this notoriety, but because of how much he centered around the drama of this movie. I wanted to see like, is he really up to the task going toe-to-toe with Florence Pugh? Shia LaBeouf was initially cast in this role. Would he have done a better job? Right? Did you find yourself like analyzing this movie in any way based on the off-screen drama?
In the first act of the movie, I thought Olivia Wilde did a great job. I don't think this was intended, but did a great job like hiding Harry Styles.
Agreed.
He didn't have much to do in the first act except be there and look pretty, like look amazing. And I think again, stylistically and production, costume design, and just the look, he nailed the look of this character just by looking good, being in that 50s suit, sleek, partying, like like not charismatic, just like
Charming.
look, yeah, like just his looks command the screen, and like him and Florence Pugh, like very sexual. So like someone that looks those two like good looking people doing that is just like, yeah, that works. But once you dig deeper throughout the movie, and he has a much, much, much bigger role, especially when you get to the third act, you could just clearly see that this guy doesn't have the chops. At least not yet. I'm not gonna say he never will, but this was just way too soon. And then when you go to Shia LaBeouf, the easy comparison there, because he was supposed to be Harry Styles in this movie, I would picture this would be completely different because the first act, so the first half of the movie, I would pick Harry Styles over Shia LaBeouf just because he barely did anything. And just by looks, it would match the movie much better. But the second half, not only does Shia LaBeouf has proven acting chops, but I think that his intensity, as you've seen in his work, would be so beneficial for what happens in this movie. And finally, to wrap this all up, I'm going to put in Florence Pugh here, who I thought was great when she was by herself. I thought she was terrific. But the twist, I didn't buy this chemistry between Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, which made
Yes.
the twist even worse. There was no chemistry. You could kiss and have sex as much as you want. Harry Styles can go down on Florence Pugh as much as you want. You're not selling me that their chemistry is amazing. There's plenty
Yeah.
of couples out there that just have sex. There's plenty of ex relationships that just have sex, but then they don't stay together. You're not gonna buy that. You need better acting. And Harry Styles clearly didn't have the chops. And Harry Styles and Florence Pugh combined couldn't get it together. There's clearly offset issues, made its way to the screen here, and I got a picture Shia LaBeouf. One of the reasons, the main reason for him leaving the project is because there wasn't enough acting rehearsal time, which leans to me that there was no rehearsal time if Harry Styles came in late. So that's why there was no chemistry. So all in all, like another long rant, but
take a sip of water, Detective Flicks. Jesus Christ. Can I get a word out of this podcast? Jesus. Because I have similar sentiments. I got similar sentiments. They did try and hide Harry Styles in the first part of this movie. And I left the theater trying to convince myself, you know what? He didn't hold back the movie, right? He didn't make it better, but he didn't hold it back. But like after sitting on it for a day, he 100% made it worse. He 100% did. The first act, you're right, they tried to hide the chemistry by just putting in like at least 5 sex scenes. They're like, oh my God, they look so sexy together, that therefore their chemistry is good. Let's try and fool the audiences. But by the end of the movie, after the big reveal, and he's going like toe-to-toe with Florence Pugh one-on-one scenes, she's doing laps around him. She's doing absolute laps around him. And then Harry Styles also, like his accent is flowing in and out. It's flowing in and out. I didn't know if he was British to start the movie or not, right? When they're in the setting. I don't know if he's British or not until you got the Jonah basically saying, what do the Brits say? Keep calm and carry on. And after that, I'm like, oh, he's British. He is officially British. I didn't know what he was.
How on earth, like he is British in real life. Like how on earth can we not understand his accent, his actual real accent in the movie? And it's embarrassing.
I do want to say, I have when we get to it, I'm gonna have like a casting couch where it's okay. Who would have been a good fit? And I think I have a couple great ones for the role of Harry Styles. Shia LaBeouf, you're right. When it comes to like those first and second scenes, the first and second act, excuse me, he might not have been the best suit for this film, but based on what we know in the third act, it makes me convinced that I see this now. I see him right as this character, and I will go into details when we go into spoilers, but I don't want to jump too far ahead. So I want to look at this cast for Flex because I want to do this segment that seems right up our alley. It's called the Prime segment, right? We're going to go through the cast. We're going to talk about, are they pre-prime? Like, is it before they hit their prime, right? Maybe this is a launching pad for them to go on to do greater things, almost like a prediction of sorts. Is this their prime, where this is like, okay, they're in the middle of the core of their career, their stock is higher than ever, right? Then their next project is almost must see. Or are they post prime, where they're beyond their best acting, beyond their best projects? It's kind of going downhill from there. Do we understand?
Yeah, I already know there's going to be a controversy around one of them, but
all right, let's circle here. Let's go Florence Pugh, right? The one who's getting a lot of accolades for this performance. I thought she was excellent, especially in the third act, where she doesn't know, she's like displaying a bevy of emotions at a time where I wouldn't know how I would respond in that situation. I think she responds perfectly. I think she's great in this tension-filled type of movie, one that is eerily similar to her performance in Midsommar, in my opinion. So I think we got to go Florence Pugh. Do you think she is pre-prime, in her prime, or post-prime? Post-prime's out of the equation here.
Yeah, out of the equation. The debate is pre or during. I still think we're in the early stages of Florence Pugh.
Wow. Whoa.
Not early.
That is crazy.
We're about to hit prime with Florence Pugh. Do you know how old she is?
27.
She's 26.
Oh my God. That is nuts.
That is insane. No actor is in their prime when they're 26. Her best role of all time might come down, like when it's all said and done, she wins 5 Oscars, whatever. It might come down to Midsommar when it's all said and done. But is that her prime? No. That was her coming out. You know what I mean? Even like in the next year, she has The Wonder, which she's already getting like, oh my God, is she going to get nominated?
Potential.
Yeah. Next year, she has Oppenheimer, Dune 2, A Good Person, another movie that's going to be a psychological thriller, so she's going to freaking dominate that. And then The Maid, which is also like already like been announced, and there's already Oscar buzz around that for 2024. And then she's still a Marvel superhero. So she's
like going to lead the Thunderbolts, dude. Like she is like, I agree with you. She's pre-prime, dude. when
Scary.
she's like a class, like this is the type of movie where she is a classic movie star. And like in this type of story, non-IP related, like she is the one selling this movie alongside the idea of Harry Styles, right?
Dude, she's Mike Trout. She's literally Mike Trout right now. She's on pace to beat Meryl Streep. Like, it's insane.
Like it is nuts. The fact that you said she's 26, that tells me enough. But yeah, you brought it up, the filmography, the Wonder. There's a lot of talk of like potential Oscar nom, Netflix movie coming out, right? You mentioned Oppenheimer. There's a type of like Nolan movie, right? Critically acclaimed director, one of the best of his generation. And then alongside Dune Part 2, also work with Denis Villeneuve. Like she is probably the most in-demand actress, whether young or older generation, that we have right now. And she's leading the MCU Thunderbolts. And to me, it's like in the MCU, she's playing like Yelena Belova. Like she could have had it all. She could, like, I don't even know if there's like that many great, like maybe she could have played an X-Men character, but like she wanted to capitalize. Yeah. Maybe she wants to play like an MCU hero now. So later on in her career, she could focus on these prestigious type of projects, but she's doing them now anyway.
Exactly.
She is insane. And I agree. I'm going pre-prime for her, and this can't be her prime because like she's the obvious standout from this movie. We're going to talk about another actor probably up next, right? That is like rivaling her in this movie somewhat, where it's like you would take away like this person also gave a commanding performance and really stole the screen when he was on there, but it's like also like a movie that's got 38% Rotten Tomatoes. It's one that's getting critically like absolutely slammed right now after having such high anticipation. So this is not, I think she's pretty prime, as crazy as that sounds. So next one, Chris Pine. This one's interesting. Is this pre-prime? Probably not. Is it prime or post-prime? I know it's your guy.
It's my guy. So if you're looking at break, like he comes from a big family, like a Hollywood family, right? He had an easy way in, right? And then his breakout was in 2009, Captain James T. Kirk, Star Trek. Okay. And then after that, we have Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor takes, again, continuing this rise. And then Hell or High Water. Hell or High Water was the year before, I think, 2016, not 2017. So it's like, okay, but is that his prime? That can't be his prime. If that's his prime, then his career didn't live up to expectations. And I know he's been struggling late. He did like all the Old Knives, The Contractor, the type of Chris Pratt movies that he's like, the movies that Chris Pratt's been doing, you know, like similar to what's that movie Chris Pratt did that we reviewed? That's Amazon Prime with the aliens.
Tomorrow War?
Yeah, he's been doing like Tomorrow War type movies. But
all the Old Knives, you know, like that.
And he's doing this movie, which was not supposed to be a bad movie.
It was supposed to be a potential, like, I don't, maybe an awards like consideration as a villainous role in a wild sci-fi thriller.
But he still showed that he's the best among the bunch here, except Florence Pugh. Like he still showed his chops, and he's like, going to be in Dungeons and Dragons, which that's another like money bag grab. But he's playing Walter Cronkite in a movie
alongside who? Did you see this?
No, who's he?
Ruffalo. Ruffalo is alongside him in that movie.
He doesn't miss.
But at the same time, like this was his moment. Like it seems like this was his build up. We haven't really seen him in villainous roles before.
The script didn't help him.
The script didn't help him, certainly, right? I'm not gonna like blame him for like the underwritings of his own character, but he was given, I guess, the juiciest role of this movie. Although, like I would say, pretty one note. We don't really get a background on him. We don't get to see any other type of emotion from him other than just being a creep, I guess, throughout this entire movie. This still seemed like it was going to be like his comeback. We called it. It was going to be like his comeback, his return to form before he headlines his next project, his next franchise with Dungeons and Dragons. And like Star Trek 4, maybe that's going to help him like resurge a little bit. But for me, this is the prime for him. I don't think he goes much higher than this. I know that's going to break your heart a little bit. Actors, longevity matters. Like you're going to have like decades upon decades of Chris Pine after this. But are we going to like get past, like, is he going to move beyond like the apex of like the Star Trek franchise? I'm not certain. I'm going to say no. I'm saying prime.
God dang it. This can't be happening.
The
He's
Walter
still
Cronkite,
good.
if you nail Walter Cronkite, like we're talking about, and this is a movie, not a series, I believe,
Yeah.
and we're looking at like historical figure, period type of piece, like it's somewhere where he can shine. I'm not gonna like sell the stock yet, but I don't know if it's gonna. I can't buy it, just based on his recent filmography.
He's like a stock. No, actually, I'm not gonna do that analogy because you know what? You are right, but he has so much in the tank
You have
that he's
faith.
willing to give. Yeah. So
You have
I'm
faith.
not selling this. I'm holding this till it's broke. Like
Okay, so
I'm until we're
I'm saying
bankrupt.
post prime. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm saying post prime, not prime prime. All right. So Harry Styles, acting wise, pre
Unapplicable.
prime. Yeah. Can we even say that for him?
No, not
Like,
applicable.
and like I like My Policeman. That's another movie that he's starring in, leading man, and it's
Not
not
getting
getting
good
good
reviews.
reviews for Amazon Prime. We know he was in a post-credit scene for Eternals. He has the future as a Marvel superhero. It's not looking bright for our boy
God,
Harry Styles. Like you can almost say it. This
not
is his
my
prime
boy.
prime. He's prime now because I don't know if it's going to get any better. Marvel seems like they can protect him a little bit. Just don't give him his own solo show. Don't give him a solo movie, but you can hide him around like in the next Eternals movie somewhat. Maybe that's where you go. Yeah, let's just skip Harry Styles because he's not applicable. Gemma
Just
Chan.
wait.
I'll
Hold on.
start with
Quick comment on Harry Styles.
what?
Quick comment is that I do think it's pre-prime because he'll probably do Marvel will help him and he'll be like shown up limited screen time there, but he'll rock it because of just the nature of the character. And then he'll probably do like a music biopic or like a fake music biopic of made believe
It'll be
actor
like Frank
musician.
Sinatra or something.
Something like that where he could show off his dance moves and singing. So then that will be his prime, and then he'll fall off a cliff from there.
I don't know if he can handle that. I don't know if it has to be someone that's English. I don't think he could do the American accent and stick it for an entire movie. Gemma Chan, I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to say prime still. Actually, this is interesting because like she had a lot of hype following Crazy Rich Asians, right? She was already in Captain Marvel. They think she's so talented. Kevin Feige, like, okay, let's put her in Eternals in the female lead. Movie bombs. She's got, I believe, she has a spinoff, I believe, of Crazy Rich Asians coming. To go along with that, I feel like she was very underutilized in Don't Worry, Darling. Also suffers from bad writing, right, for this movie. Feels like there was something off regarding her character here. We'll dive into it with the spoilers. But I still think she's been like one of the most hyped actresses for a long time now, and like nothing's paid off. Like this is where like, oh, she is a supporting role in an Olivia Wilde movie, yet she's given nothing to do, right? And they don't capitalize on her talents. Right? But other than that, Eternals bomb, as I said before. I don't have her rest of her filmography up right now. Yeah, it's a spinoff, but I'm gonna say pre-prime still because I don't think she's reached the level that I know she can, and I have faith in her. Similarly to you, like with Chris Pine.
She's a great actress. It's simple as that. She is like this movie showed it in that underutilized. I in my notes I have underutilized equals Gemma Chan. So I agree with you. But if you look at her filmography, if you take away Crazy Rich Asians and you take away all the non-American, like non-domestic films, it's like I don't know anything she's been in, or like I don't know anything she's been in. So international wise, I just don't know her. But then if we look domestically, it's like okay, Transformers Last Night. She's got what else? She's
Fantastic
got
Beasts,
Crazy Rich Eight, yeah, Fantastic Beasts, right? Eternals,
Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit.
So it's just like kind of tough. So it's like all right, she has the talent, but she's similar to Chris Pine where she's not picking the right projects. She just isn't. And she isn't this. You could say she's going for the money, but I would say Chris Pine's more so going for the money because he's actually leading these projects, these big blockbusters or whatever you want, action movies. But for her, it's like, hey, like we got to get going here. We do, and we got to get more screen time in these type of movies. So I know she has a movie with Allison Janney coming up.
Gareth Edwards directed.
So that's going to be a one where, all right, can you get the screen time to show your acting chops? And then maybe we could catapult from there. So it's another one where I don't think she's in her prime yet, but it's coming soon. Like the window's closing.
I think we should move on to Olivia Wilde. and this is an interesting one because as a director, like this is a huge fall from Booksmart. And she's getting probably out of that whole off-screen drama that's happening, it seems like she's taking the brunt of it, almost rightfully so, based on what the audience knows and what these Twitter followers know, and like everybody that is into like this drama, tabloid stuff, right, that surrounds this movie. So I think she's only made 2 movies, so I can't say she's in her prime, right? But we know acting wise, like she also gave herself, it was hilarious, she gave herself like the juiciest secondary role in this movie, when then maybe that should have gone to Gemma Chan. That's what I was thinking the entire time. Like Gemma Chan would have done better than Olivia Wilde in that role. Olivia Wilde does fine, but like if you have the directorial duties, maybe worry about right what the overall movie looks like and just give right that secondary role to Gemma Chan, who I think would just, I guess I would say feast on it. I think she would do amazing, and maybe you feed her a few more lines. But her, I guess I'm going prime just because she started off so hot. Then they have this downfall. Right? Wonder what her next project's going to be. Will studios still have faith in her following, right? Don't Worry, Darling, and following like the way she has treated her actors, right? Whether it be Florence Pugh, Shia LaBeouf, and her off-screen antics with Harry Styles. I guess she's in her prime, all right? But I don't think she's going to. She can only go up, I guess, from Don't Worry, Darling. So I'm going prime.
She can only go up, I think. You know, I think. But just to start with the acting. In this movie, you're right. I wanted to hate her, but couldn't. She was really good.
She was good.
Like she was.
I just don't like that she gave herself that part when you have such talented actors in this cast that had nothing to do.
But she was good. She also was good, though.
Do you not think Gemma Chan would have done just as well or even better?
All right, quick question for you. Who's older, Olivia Wilde or Gemma Chan?
I think they're near the same age. Maybe a trick question. I'm going to say Gemma Chan is younger.
Gemma Chan's 2 years older.
Wild. That has nothing to do what I'm saying, though.
No, but I was just like shocked when I saw that earlier today. But going back to what you're saying, I don't know. I think it could have worked either way. I think I think they were both good, and I think if you flip them, it's both good. Like I don't see a big difference either way, personally.
So she's in her prime.
But directing, Booksmart was great. That's your coming out. So I don't think that's your prime. This was a mess. It was a huge swing for the fences. She should have been check swing or gone for a single. She went for the home run, Jordan Peele style, didn't come through. But her next movie, perfect. It's about Carrie Strug, the gymnast that had the broken ankle in '96.
Who's playing her?
Enzi is in this movie, right? I have faith that this movie could be something.
Isn't she doing Spider-Woman as well? Isn't she doing?
And she's doing Spider-Woman, but I don't have faith in that because Sonyverse. I made fun of this on the last pod. I don't have faith in the Sonyverse, so I'm gonna pass on that. But I'm not gonna like count it out completely. I'll still watch it, but I will have faith in Perfect right now. She's bringing back what's it called? Ronnie Sandall, screenwriter, right? What did he do? Borg versus McEnroe, right? Wrote that script. So critically acclaimed writer of sports biopics. I could see this being good, and I'm going to have faith here. So I'm going to say pre-prime, but on the last straw.
This makes me like you tell me the Carrie Strug story that's going to be told. Thomas McKenzie, I like, young, exciting actor in Hollywood. I do think I don't trust as much because of Olivia Wilde going to a different genre of movie. We saw her go from a teenage, like coming of age comedy with obviously Booksmart. Then we have the sci-fi thriller that bombs. Then she's going to a sports genre type of movie. I don't think I trust it after seeing this. And I think that is the consequence of this movie, right? Sadly. But I guess in that regard, if this one flops so hard and then she has an exciting story that many people are going to flock to the audience to see that doesn't have IP related to it. It's obviously a biopic that is so iconic in Olympic history. I gotta say pre-prime, okay, but I just don't trust her. Let's go on from the prime segment, right? I do like Nick Kroll. I feel like he's not even relevant to this conversation because he was so underutilized in this movie, and I thought that was a crime because like you couldn't have Nick Kroll make a couple jokes here. Like he was like just an a-hole, like a jerk, and like took himself so seriously in this movie. And like, come on, you have Nick Kroll in the movie, you gotta fire a joke or two, or let Nick Kroll cook, let him make a couple jokes. And he seems like he's big in the culture right now, at least bigger than he was 10 years ago. Seems like it was like, and he's like, obviously he's the husband to Olivia Wilde in her own movie. I thought he would have gotten a little bit more love here in terms of screen time.
This is he miscast, or either miscast, or it's they didn't use him properly. I totally agree with you.
Or he
Nick
asked to
Kroll.
be in the movie. That I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, but yeah, right. Okay, if you did that, miscast. It's either miscast or they should have used them differently.
100%. I do want to go away from the acting and the cast a little bit. I want to talk. Oh, did you have something else?
I just wanted to say I couldn't take Jonah seriously. He's one of the builders
Oh,
of
I
this
thought he was
world.
good.
He's one of the. You're telling me Jonah is one of the builders of this world?
Come on, you're getting lost in the character he is from Veep. You're getting lost.
I know that's my problem.
Come on, I think he pulled off the look pretty well as like a 1950s type of doctor that comes to your house and knocks on the door and has like the glasses on. It almost feels like they should have been taped at the top. I think he really pulled off the look for the character.
I agree.
I think he did fine.
I agree. I'm just saying, like, it was hard to get that stigma away. And then, real quick, the friend to Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh, that was like kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I forgot her name. Yep.
In the movie, I don't know her real name, but she's in I Think You Should Leave. Sorry.
Yes.
Oh my, yes, I got it right. With Tim Robinson.
Yes, not this is where I leave you. Yeah.
But she's all this Garfield creator. That house.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop laughing, but I thought she was pretty good in this too.
Yeah, no, she was pretty good. She really played into like that 1950s setting as well. I do want to move away from the cast as I was talking about, because one of the positives of the movie, I think, for the most part, were the visuals, right? The setting of the 1950s, the color scheme of it all, the cars pulling out at the same time, very visually appealing to the audience. So I just want to get your thoughts, if you had any, on what you saw, especially in the first two acts of the movie, and why it worked.
Yeah, I think this was very visually pleasing. I thought it was very well executed cinematography wise, and Matthew Libatok, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's a frequent collaborator with Darren Aronofsky, right? So he worked on Black Swan. He worked on A Requiem for a Dream. He's been nominated for 2 Oscars. He worked on A Star Is Born. Like, he just knows how to just shoot movies. Mm-hmm. And I just thought this was just another example of his like fine work. And I thought I was just like very pleased with that. And the costume design, I think, was just spot on 1950s. So simple.
I do want to say some of the visuals that they were kind of alluding to with the big twist here, the visions that Florence Pugh is having, the motifs that they're repeatedly using. I felt the second act of this movie was slow, for sure. Florence Pugh was kind of carrying it, but at the same time, the audience, you got a little bored waiting for that twist to come. It felt like the motifs were so repetitive. They were banging it against the audience's head, and they kind of took us for stupid a little bit with a lot of it. And also some of it I just didn't understand. So maybe I am stupid, but like the ballet, like I saw this in the trailer, like the horror ballet that you're seeing, and like the women's that are circling, that have like the crusted mouths and everything, really disgusting. I didn't really understand what that meant. It only confused me, and I was waiting for a payoff of some sort. Maybe it was related to the ballet she was doing in those scenes in the 1950s setting. Is it like related to that? Maybe she's seeing visions and like she's having nightmares. You got like coffee, as if it's like Get Out, like coffee continuously pouring in the cup, the never-ending coffee. I just felt like some of the stuff, like you could have like cut like that coffee scene like 3 times, like did it over and over again. You could have cut the ballet dancers, because I don't think they really brought much to the story. Did you find like those motifs, they were just like, they worked at all, or do you find like they were unnecessary? What do you think?
Didn't work at all.
Simple.
Wasted time. 2-hour movie, which I going in, our cousin was like, "Oh, how long is this movie?" I was like, 2 hours. That's probably good for like a psychological thriller. Set the tone, build up tension, anticipation, have a twist. Movie over. 2 hours seems fine. This could have been done a lot sooner. And a part of that is the motifs and all the eyeballs and dancing women like in the pool or whatever. Just didn't like it.
That
Simple.
would
Didn't
to
like it.
me to me that was like Olivia Wilde trying to like add like that artsy fartsy aspect to it, right? Give it more
Mm.
legitimacy than a straightforward sci-fi thriller. And it only made the audience think like, I don't get why you're doing this. You know, I don't
It was like
understand. And it didn't pay off after the reveal. Like to me, I still was like found myself questioning like why they wrote in, right, those visions, right? Rather than something a little more overt, you know?
yeah, it reminded me of Nocturnal Animals with the beginning scene with the fat woman dancing.
Oh yeah.
And that one, like, that was the only time they showed that, right? And that has meaning at the end of the movie in a complex way. You had to look it up after the movie to get it, but it's like, holy crap, that's crazy. But then it's like, why show it if I'm not even going to understand it? But a little too artsy fartsy for Olivia Wilde here, similar to Nocturnal Animals.
Nocturnal Animals is a great look up the meaning afterwards type of movie. This one's not because
Right.
there's because like Nocturnal Animals has a very exciting third act and it really draws you in. This has a third act and a twist that really turns the audience off. It makes you kind of want to doesn't make you want to like learn more about why this director did something. You know, that was kind of like maybe she wanted you to do that. She wanted you to think about like what these mean, but like we're talking about it now and I couldn't care less. I just wanted to get your take on that. I do want to talk about also another I guess mistake in this movie, or at least in my opinion, was like the writing in terms of the story itself and the themes that came across in this movie. Um I'll just speak about it non-spoiler wise. Like the first act, it did draw me in. Second act, riding on Florence Pugh, felt super slow though. And then the third act seemed like the story just completely fell apart. And there was no connections to some of the actions that are made by the actors. And I thought the themes itself, the theme was like not relevant at all to 2022. And I feel like Olivia Wilde was trying to make a statement this movie, like the idea of like returning to, right, where the woman is at home and the male is at work. I feel like that is not relevant anymore. Like for me, I'm a teacher. Like I want my wife to be working. Like I like that's great. You know, like it seems like she's trying to craft this narrative that doesn't exist anymore, and she wants to like she's painting this idea of feminism behind this movie, but I just didn't buy it. I just didn't buy it whatsoever. How are you feeling about the themes here?
No, I agree. I don't want to repeat because I think you said it perfectly, but I will jump into the writing just to kind of change
Yeah,
it up a little bit.
hop on.
The dialogue was poor. There was a lot like Chris Pine's dialogue. I felt so bad. You could tell
Mm.
like he was really trying to be that. Was it Jared Peterson, the cult leader that he was based
Jordan
on?
Jordan
Jordan.
Peterson,
You could,
anti-woke.
and like I think Chris Pine did a great job like portraying that cult leader, and his presence on screen was really good. His delivery was really, but just what he was saying was like, "What are we doing?" It wasn't ad lib, you know. It was just like I don't know. It was poor in my opinion. And then non-spoiler, some of the twists and the dialogue there was pretty poor as well. I was really shocked to see that. So, and then also non-spoiler, I'll talk about more spoilers, but also some of the things that happened, just like why write that? Clearly, because this was adapted from another story, another book, and they changed it up, and they clearly should have kept it the way it was.
And it's interesting because who wrote this movie? It was actually Dick Van Dyke's children. They wrote this script. It gets blacklisted in 2019, and then Olivia Wilde picks it up, right? And then they go from there. Maybe it should have stayed blacklisted. So, as you go from we are about to go into spoilers, but I just want to talk about this quote because like the press for this movie was just hilarious throughout, and it was like more entrancing than the actual movie was. Like you talked about it earlier, like influences for this movie. You brought up Inception, but there's also ideas from The Matrix, as said by Olivia Wilde, and The Truman Show. And just to me, like talk about setting your movie up for failure. Like it seems a little cocky that you would say that in an interview. Like maybe you say like, I don't know. I feel like you also like you understand why like those are influences after the movie, but like to say that and then you get this heap of garbage afterwards, it just makes me distrust Olivia Wilde even more.
It's not a good look. It's clear that, yeah, like there's a lot of bad movies. There's more bad movies than good movies in this world. Okay. And they all could say, oh, I was thinking of Taxi Driver. But at the end of the day, it's just about a guy who's going on a rampage around New York City and in this inspired Taxi Driver movie. The director could say all he or she wants that it was inspired by Taxi Driver, but it's nowhere near the level. And that's what this is. And I think just now in the social media age, this press tour to the max age with all these film festivals and quarrels, especially with this movie in particular, it wasn't the time to say that. It was going to be taken literally, not like, oh, in retrospect, I understand. No, 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 no. You have to know, especially if you're the director, you're the leader on this project. You're not supposed to be like drawing the attention negatively. And you did just that in more ways than just this.
Yeah. I think we should get to, I agree. I think we do need to get to spoilers, but before we do so, we got to put a score on this for those who have not seen the movie. So do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? What do you think?
I start. You could start.
I'm going to go with a 40. 40 out of 100 for Don't Worry, Darling. I think basically the only reason I had to go 40, I was thinking about you going even lower, is that I just respect Florence Pugh so much. And the movie looked amazing. Visually, it works for the most part, other than like those motifs I was talking about. But yeah, all hail Florence Pugh. She is on top of the world right now, as you can see from when this movie premiered at the film, was it Venice Film Festival? So yeah, 40 for me.
Yeah, I agree with those points. And even though the movie didn't work in the end, and a lot of it didn't make sense, like I think those 2 points that you made about how it looked and the Florence Pugh performance, which was the dominating performance in this movie, I think carried it enough to beat Rotten Tomatoes 38. So I'm going to go higher than you, Dr. O.
Wow, rarity.
I'm going 42.
Oh. I was thinking about going 45, but like when
too high.
When I first left this movie, I'm thinking like 45, 50. And as I sat upon it and like I had time to reflect upon the movie, I'm like, really, they underutilized everybody. I had so much hype going into this movie. Yeah, so I just like, it was just a complete letdown in my opinion. And after sitting on it and watching some of the like thinking about like Harry Styles, what he meant to this movie, he really did drag it down in some capacity. 40 out of 100.
I was thinking to myself, like, oh, 45, 50. Like, there's a 50 out of 100 warrant Don't Worry, Darling. And I was just like, no. Like,
you want to like it. It has movie stars, likable people in it, but then like, and you want to go against like people's notions. You want to say like, no, it was good in this capacity. And you're going to have people like saying that it's good. But a lot of the opinions I'm seeing on the internet, just not even from critics, just from like people I just at like over the course of like the last 2 days, I searched Don't Worry, Darling. I'm wondering what's the flow of conversation like. There's an overwhelming amount of people that like this movie. I think it goes to the 79% like audience score. But like, this is something I said about Rotten Tomatoes before in this podcast. Like, people hate on it, right? Like it's for the critics, and the critics have an agenda, right? And the audience are the ones that matter. But like, people don't recall, like, sometimes the audience is dumb, you know, just like they are just entranced by movie stars. They're entranced by Harry Styles. They're entranced by Florence Pugh. And in their mind, sometimes they can do no wrong. And like, they're gonna, like, Harry Styles fans are gonna try and bump up that audience score because they want him in more movies, right? So it's like there is an agenda not only for like actual critics, but like also audience score. So like, to me, it's like they're both like terrible metrics. And it's just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you have the Swifties, you have the Snyder Cut stands, and then you have like Harry Styles. Those are like the three most powerful groups on Twitter.
MCU is huge.
Yeah, and MCU, of course. Yeah, those are like the most powerful groups on Twitter. And of course, they're going to power up their movie's audience score. Like, you can't not if you're a stan behind them. And Harry Styles is one of the biggest stans. And again, Florence Pugh, great performance. That's also going to carry audience score where your protagonist does great. So you're going to like the movie no matter what. It doesn't mean the movie's good. Doesn't mean the movie's good if the lead actor is good. There's plenty of situations and examples that we can go through, but we don't have time.
Exactly. All right, so let's go on to the spoiler review. Check out the timestamps. You can go to the mini checkup this week featuring Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Just make sure you hit the description in this episode. You can find it. So let's move on. All right, spoiler time, Ricky Flicks. We got to talk about the twist in this movie because it seems to be irking a lot of audiences. Do you want to explain it, or would you like me to?
You're the host.
All right, I have to do this. So what we figure out in the final, leading off the final act of this movie, is that Florence Pugh, she's getting these visions and she's hearing things from Harry Styles' character Jack Chambers, and she's already questioning her reality. She challenges, she basically asks Jack Chambers, let's leave, let's get away. They pack the car, they're leaving. And then Harry Styles says, I'm sorry. And then she's taken away by these dudes in red suits that look like the guy from the fingers from Spy Kids, you know, with the red suits. Did you see those memes online, Ricky? All right.
Yeah. I was thinking Spy Kids, Squid Game.
Squid Game. Yeah. So she gets taken away. And basically she has to go through like this shock therapy, right, to make sure that she basically forgets, right, all these different things that she has been questioning about this world. What we end up figuring out is that there's a flashback where Florence Pugh is leaving surgery in modern day. Like, she is a doctor of some sort. She works in an operation room. She works long hours, and she comes home, right, married to still Harry Styles as Jack Chambers. But it's not the Jack Chambers that we're seeing in the first two acts of the movie. It's incel Harry Styles, where he's like gaming or something. He's listening to the Victory podcast that's hosted by Chris Pine's character, and it seems like it's generating a cult-like fandom. And what they offer with this Victory project is an opportunity for people to leave the real world, right? It's very appealing to men who want to return to the 1950s, right? Where they can be in control of the household. And that what happens is Florence Pugh in real life is basically knocked out by Jack Chambers, sent to her bed, chained to the bed, and then she puts on these eye devices that sends her back to this 1950s type of setting in this Matrix influence type of idea from Olivia Wilde, or from the script that she gathers. So basically, when you have Jack Chambers and the men in this world, they go and they go back to the real world. They go to work, quote unquote, and that's when they go back to the real world. They take off their eyeglasses, their eye technology, and they leave, right, whoever they have trapped in this world, stuck to the bed, okay, and they are forever trapped there. So, is that a good job explaining it? Am I missing anything?
No, you did a great job.
So, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but what did you think about the twist here after we get incel Harry Styles? So he's like, Harry Styles is not happy with the marriage, right? The woman appears to be like, she works long hours, but she she's the breadwinner of the family, of the couple. Harry Styles, like when she comes home, he wants to have like sex with her. He wants to be able to like have a loving time with his wife. And he doesn't know how to cook. He doesn't know how to order food properly. It seems like he's just a complete loser, and he wants to take control of his own marriage by transporting her back to victory. So, like, what do you think about this decision by Wilde, right, to follow through with this twist, and why didn't it work?
This twist was BS. Like, it was. It's a good idea, but the themes and everything behind it was just awful. The execution was awful. It was just a brain dump at the end. It was just a brain dump final third act. And the mystery's lost, and I was lost. As in, I didn't care for this anymore. This really relied on Harry Styles, and he didn't show up. Too complex for him. That's why it goes back to what we were saying. Like, a Shia LaBeouf probably could have put this together. Harry Styles could not put this together.
This is where you find out Harry Styles wasn't up to the task.
When you take away his good looks, it's like, oh, wait. And then it comes back to his good looks, and then he has to really act. And then it's like, wait, he's trying to kill Florence Pugh right now on his knees? Like, what?
I legitimately like laughed when I saw him as like with this long hair, grimy type of dude. Looks like he stays inside all day. And the girls that took a picture of Harry Styles earlier on the screen, like, gasp. Like, I was just laughing at them because, like, I bet you didn't see this coming. And I do want to say, like, with this darker turn of this character, this is where Shia LaBeouf would have been great. And when he goes toe to toe in that final act with Florence Pugh, where the big reveal, he finally finds out that she knows, right, what he did, and that he's not even feeding her. He's dropping water like through a washcloth so she lives. Like, she's not even getting food. I don't understand how she survives. Another hole in the writing there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to pitch a name here like that would have done great in this role, and I want to know who you had in mind. Don't judge me. Don't cancel me, okay? Because Shia LaBeouf already getting canceled here. I think if it was 3 years ago, this movie's getting made. You know who's going to be great?
Robert
Army
Pattinson.
Hammer. Hammer. I thought Army Hammer would have like killed this role in his prime before like all those stories came out about him. He's suave. He could pull out the good looking part, but he also has some sinisterness that he can play to and has a dark side to him. And I think even before like we heard all those stories about him, like he already had that dark side that was like, I think could have worked. Like I could have seen him in that role, absolutely murdering it. Pun not intended there, but like I just think that can you see that?
That's a great casting. That's a great casting.
You need someone that can pull off the good looks, but you know there's something going on the other side. And then when you make that turn, you need someone that can go against Florence Pugh. And like Armie Hammer's Florence Pugh would have been so electric. But did you have any other names that you were thinking of, like potential replacements here?
I was thinking like good looking, but also has to be grimy and has to be a great actor. Who's that? And who's shown that is Robert Pattinson. Good Time, Rover. He's shown the griminess, right? And in the
and then he's done Tenet, you know, like
and then he's Tenet, and he's Bruce Wayne. It's just like, yeah, he can.
That's a good casting too.
But he's like, again, 2019 when this got casting, he already got cast as the Batman, so that was like gonzo for him. But Armie Hammer is a great cast. I could easily see Armie Hammer.
I want to put that in a Twitter clip, but I also don't because I feel like we either gain audience members or just lose all of them. You know, just like one way.
Come on, it was clear. Like we're not. Yeah, no.
I just think
cannibalization. No, we're good.
And this is like the artsy type of project he would want to do. You know.
Yes.
And yeah, it just seems like it was up his alley. And we already talked about Nocturnal Animals before, and like he didn't even have a big turn in that movie. But like he wants to be in those type of movies, and this seemed like it was going to be a prestigious project from the start, and had it such hype to it, it would have just lined up. I do want to talk about too the Harry Styles just continuing his performance here. Like maybe this was the script's decision, and maybe they wanted to hide the fact he couldn't do a proper American accent for an extended period of time. But like he speaks without an accent in the real world, and then he goes into this Matrix 1950s world, and all of a sudden he's British. Like, I don't understand that. To me, that makes no sense, especially because, like, Olivia Wilde's, like, setting these rules. Like, if you kill them in the Matrix, you kill them in the real world. I'm like, so why aren't their voices the same? Like, I don't get it. Like, it seems like they're making up almost like superhero type role, like these rules, like, at a whim just to, like, adjust to the story and make it work. Did you feel that?
It's like, oh, they always say the men can die, but then Olivia Wilde, she's a user. She's like a on purpose user, but she can't die if she dies in the Matrix in this world victory. It's like, wait, what? Like, and then the kids aren't real. Then how do you have make believe kids? Like, why can't you have make believe wives? Like, very weird. And I have a lot more questions, and I'm not gonna say them right now, but I'll also just say, similar to your point, like about like the feminism movement, who wants to go back to the 50s? Like, who wants to go back to the 50s?
It did look like a utopia, though. It looked pretty good.
Yeah. I think, yeah. It's just like, come on now. I have a bunch of other things, but I'll throw it back to you.
And going on with like the third act and not understanding the writing or things just being thrown at audiences, like the other glaring moment I think a lot of people have been talking about, I've listened to a couple podcasts on this movie, and one that we were making fun of, like a moment we made fun of afterwards, was Gemma Chan just all of a sudden doing a heel turn, turning on her husband and stabbing him for we don't know why. She says it's my turn, and we're like, for what? Like, it's your turn for what? Like,
you aren't running this.
And at the same time, like, it makes you think, okay, obviously he might have forced his wife into doing this, but it doesn't explain his wife's behavior earlier on at the dinner, where she insists that her and Chris Pine leave the dinner because she's being insulted by Florence Pugh, who's questioning the validity of the Victory Project. Like, it makes no sense for her to be so loyal to Chris Pine and then at the end, like, have like a quote unquote crowd pleasing moment. Like, oh my God, she did it. She killed the bad guy. And we're like, we have no idea anything about this relationship other than the fact that we know she's been loyal to him in the screen time that we've had. And she has bought into the Victory Project. To me, that made zero sense. And it also goes to the fact that we should have had more screen time with Chris Pine, got to know his background. It would have been amazing if we got to see what Chris Pine was, right, before the Victory Project. If you had to do like a spinoff or a prequel to this movie, that's what I would want to see. I would want to see Chris Pine creating the Victory Project, because like I was making jokes to you and Palmer after the movie. Like imagine like behind the screen, it's like White Goodman, like at the end of Dodgeball level of obesity, and just snacking on fried chicken. And then he's also giving these like Herculean speeches at like these galas during the 1950s. Like to me, that would have been, that has potential there. And that's something I'm much more interested in. But we got nothing about Chris Pine's character. We got nothing about Gemma Chan's, and it doesn't validate whatsoever what happens at the end of this movie.
Touch on Gemma Chan first. Every time she's on the screen, it's like Chris Pine's like, you're my rock, honey. You're like so supportive. And then like at the dinner table, she's supportive of Chris Pine. So it seems like a great relationship. But then out of nowhere at the end, it's like, oh wait, it's not? Wait, what? And then it's like, what do you call it? It's going back to the real world. Like, would have loved to see Chris Pine in the real world. Criminal, how we didn't see not just him, but all these people's real world like just do a quick montage of like everybody like sleeping next to their spouse or whatever.
Yeah,
just like
would have been so easy.
Like easy, effective use of screen time. Like a lot of this movie wasn't very effective, and it was just like, yeah, like basically at the end of the day too, it's like, okay, like Gemma Chan, all right, she's leading this world, so is she like an Olivia Wilde where she's on purpose doing this? And I'm not even gonna touch on that. I honestly, like, again, there's more questions than answers here. We can go down a rabbit hole.
It just felt dumb. It felt really dumb. And it felt like a movie that's like it's calling itself smart by its concepts and its themes. And like, okay, look how complex this sci-fi thriller is, like the Matrix level. Like, and then it comes down to like Gemma Chan. Like, we don't get the like showdown between Florence Pugh and Chris Pine. Like, that was teased. Like at the dinner scene, before they have dinner, he's like, I've been waiting for someone to challenge me. But like, you don't get that satisfaction at the end where they actually face off. Like if he was like in front of the Victory building where all of a sudden Florence Pugh is somehow being absorbed into this back into the real world. It just seemed like you needed that moment to like give Chris Pine his moment, at least. Like let the villain detail his plan, right? It might be a little cliche, but that's what we need as the audience, because we got to know more about Chris Pine.
I really had that down too. It's like, all right, like the ending of the movie is just her going to touch the headquarters and it's over. Like our last scene with Chris Pine, someone that just said, oh, like, you're my arch nemesis now. Like, you're my biggest challenger. And that's the last time they talk. There's no final battle or final scene with them. That's it. 30 minutes later, it's over, and they haven't been shown on the same screen together. Ridiculous. Poor directing. Poor directing and poor writing.
I do think the more I thought about it, when she was being absorbed into the Matrix back to the real world, it did kind of make sense, but it wasn't explained well. Like the fact that she did reach headquarters, and she the quote unquote headquarters, and she was leaning into it, she was seeing red, and it almost has like the red, that's like the red on her eyes, like the eye scanners are using to send her back. Like she's starting to go back, but I guess Harry Styles like recognized that she was waking up and then hit her over the head, Yeah. But I don't think that's explained well. In terms of like, okay, yeah, so if she just touches it, she gets exposed. It's like you're kind of counting on the audience to be a little smarter in that regard. Yeah, that's all I got. Do you have any other final comments before we move on to the checkup?
Airplane crash. What the heck was that?
Yo, another motif I didn't get. Like, what were we trying to explain?
What are we doing there?
Is that the red across her eye? Like those red? Like I don't know what it was.
No, that wasn't. And if it was, that's poor. That doesn't make sense.
That's the type of moment. That's the type of moment. What if this was a good movie? I would look up what does the red plane mean. But at this point, I don't care enough, and I think this movie sucked. So I'm not going to look up what does the red plane mean. I'm just going to consider it stupid.
Yeah. More things. So the kids are fake. How? If everyone is like attached to this metaverse with the eyes or whatever you want to call this world,
the trolley driver, like anybody.
Yeah, like you can't just create fake people that are the same exact as the people next. Like, no, you're not. That's a lazy writing mechanism. Lazy writing because they don't want to explain it. It doesn't make sense.
That's why you needed a background on the Victory Project to know, like, can you make like people that are just strictly in that world, just by like the production design of that Matrix, you know?
Yeah. Olivia Wilde doesn't like her children, but that's why she's there. That doesn't make sense. Like, it does make sense as in like, oh, like they're not my real kids, and she knows that. But like, if that's why you're there, then why stay there if you don't like them and they're fake and you know they're fake? That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
No weekends. There's never a weekend.
You know what thinks that's questionable? They're going.
That is
They're
questionable.
yeah, it's just like Saturday and Sunday. They go to work every day. The Vicky Project. You don't ask questions, but like that's weird.
That is weird. And then like, what are their jobs in the real world? Like Harry Styles is like, I have to go to work and I hate my job just to afford this. What is it? Are you a janitor? Like, no offense to janitors. Like, I was a janitor once. Like, what was your real job that you hate so much to afford all this? Like, I don't understand.
It's got to be
Like,
expensive if you're doing it, right?
yeah, but you hate it and it's this crappy. Like, I don't understand. Again, more questions than answers. Leaving the theater, but not in a good way.
No, definitely not in a good way. And that's going to do it for our review of Don't Worry, Darling, one of our most anticipated movies of the year.